within participating member countries, the Asia Pacific region, enable participating member countries, nations, identity federations, services to join EduGain, and enable participating member countries to deploy EduRun. Those were the goals back in 2014. It's now 2024. That's what, 10 years we've been doing this stuff. So just a bit of where we've been. And back in Apan58, which was in Taiwan, we had an initial meeting, or actually it was over dinner, I think, that we talked to Marcus about setting up a task force. And then Apan39 in Fukuoka, Japan, we had our first task force meeting. It's really about discussing the plans and getting the program of work underway. Then Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, it was a meeting there. We had federation updates from everyone, just to get a bit of a baseline of where nations were sitting within their federation deployments and their EduRun deployments. Then off to the Philippines, Apan41, where we ran a number of training sessions. So there was federation training happening at Apan41. There was also the ZEEP program running, which was running to deploy EduRun, and that was being run by ARNet and Singeren and Rianz were primarily responsible for running that project. And they provided kit for setting up initial EduRun deployment and training and information about policy when running your EduRun service within your nation. Next off to Hong Kong, we ran some more federation training, and I think we had a hurricane come through during the second day of that, so it was a bit of a mess, but we got through. India, we had a fairly large crowd in India, more federation training, and lots of folk there to learn about what federations were all about and how to deploy them. Then off to China, again, more training, and that's where we get to meet the Chinese Federation. And soon after that, the Chinese Federation joined EduGain. And they've grown quite significantly over the years in China. Let's get back one. Yep, that's right. Eventually, Brooke arranged some funding through, was it Asia Connect for Backfire? Yes. Yep. And that kicked off in Singapore, where we were able to fund participants from nations across the region to join us at the Singapore APAN event. And we had a really good few days of training and bringing some new federations up to, or starting them off on their journey. Then we were off to New Zealand. Again, that was funded by Backfire, and we had a fairly good crowd of folk. We brought in Heather Flanagan, and I think Nicole was there from Giant, and they provided us some really good information about federations and EduGain. And they also decided at that point to start developing some videos for us through the NRC or in some organisation. Brooke knows, I can't remember. When you're working with the videos, the introduction to federation, NSRC. And those videos are still online, and they're actually, I've got a link to them in the notes in these slides. Then we're off to Daejeon in Korea, still funded by the Backfire project. And we had some training there, and there was another federation that signed up to join into EduGain. Apan48, back to Malaysia, and more training, and this was the last of the Backfire training. And again, we had a really good turnout of folk, again, being funded by the project. When that project wrapped up, we went for some more funding. We got some funding through the iFire project, and COVID also hit at the same time. So Kathmandu, Apan49 was cancelled, so there was no training at that one. And the next three events, actually 4 events were all virtual training events. at the virtual APAN meetings in Hong Kong, virtually Islamabad, virtually Indonesia, virtually, and Bangladesh, all virtual events. We had a good turnout at those events, more than we usually have at the other events, but it was very difficult to get that training done over the internet, but we got there eventually. And out of that, we got another few federations joining up. Then it was the IFI X-Man project, ran for a year or about a year. So it didn't really start at China, but we had a bit of a gap. China was still a virtual event. And the first real event of IFI was a training thing in Singapore as part of APNIC 54. Sorry, got those two wrong. The AAF training. We had a virtual training thing run from my office in Brisbane. And then Singapore, we had APNIC, but we brought the folk together. And Farhan and his team did a great job leading the team through deploying a Kubernetes-based federation with Jagger as its federation manager tool, Shibboleth as a IDP as a service, and a couple of other services that were developed by the Malaysian Federation. Then we were off to Kathmandu, Apan57, where we continued the training on how to run your federation using Jagger and these tools that Farhan and his team had developed. And more, Apan56, there was no more funding, so it was make your own way to this one. We had a fairly good crowd at Apan56, and Casper and Nicole also came out from Giant, and they provided some really useful content around providing services in your federation and how to grow your federations. Casper did a really good presentation. It's a really packed room for trying to get more services from nations into the federation. And here we are today, Apan56 in Thailand. We have a very small crowd, very enthusiastic crowd, I hope. Yep, that's where we are at the moment. I get the wrong date number, did I? 57, yep, sorry. I'll fix that before we hand this out. Okay, so a bit of history of when our federations joined EduGain. So Japan was the first federation to join EduGain. Well done, guys. That was back in April 2013. And now they have 95 IDPs and 5 services in EduGain. Australia joined soon after in July, and we now have 29 IDPs and 6 services in EduGain. New Zealand followed after that with 15 IDPs, but no services at the moment. In December 2014, INFED, the Indian Federation led by Raj, joined, and they have 193 IDPs in EduGain and only 10 services. Korea 2016, 28 IDPs and 1 service. Then Singapore, SGAF, and I assisted them developing their federation. They have 11 IDPs and no services. Singapore's fairly small, so 11 IDP, 11 universities and research institutions is a pretty good number. Hong Kong 2017, again, that was assisted by the Australian Access Federation. And they have 13 IDPs and 7 services, which is pretty good for a very small nation. China's really gone gangbusters. In 2017, they joined, and now they have 625 IDPs in the federation in EduGain with 54 services. I'm still not exactly sure what their rules are for joining their federation or participating with the Chinese Federation. They had some weird stuff happening, but they seem to be very enthusiastic. Malaysia 2018, and they've really gone well too with 146 IDPs and 3 services. Pakistan 2018 again with 8 IDPs. They're struggling a bit, but they're very enthusiastic. Sri Lanka with 34 IDPs and 1 service. Bangladesh, and with 6 IDPs. They're still getting their sort of getting their act together, and Thailand with only 2 IDPs and 3 services. So overall, we've had 1,205 identity providers join EduGain as part of what we've been doing in the Asia Pacific region, and 90 services. Currently in the process of joining is Indonesia, and still to join, we have Nepal here today, which is great. Bhutan, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, Philippines, Vietnam, Taiwan. Those are the ones we're sort of trying to target at the moment. And I'm sure Brooke's trying to target other smaller nations around the area, particularly the Pacific region, which tends to get forgotten a lot. So successes of these 3 projects: we've got 8 new identity federations from the Asia Pacific region, and hopefully more on their way. We've enabled research and scholars across the region to access global services and to collaborate globally. And that's really our aim, is to get researchers talking and working together. We've increased the awareness of Identity Federation, single sign-on, and improvement to security, and other benefits that come from running on Identity Federation. And we've got some more starters, possibly. Sit down the back. And we've got a number of folk who are participating in a global leadership level, with Farhan and Depsy signing up or volunteering to try and join the EduGain steering group. In the past, I've been part of that EduGain steering group. We've had a number of folk, Farhan and Raj, win the Distinguished Engineers Award from Giant. There are still plenty of challenges, and there are always challenges will be remaining. We've got the remaining nations to get connected to Eduroam and to EduGain. We're trying to nurture existing federations to connect all higher education and research institutions to their national federations. Even in Australia, we have a lot of work to do to get a lot of our research institutions to be participants in our federation. We want to see more sharing of national services, HPC, storage, equipment, collaboration tools, whatever. We need more services coming from the Asia Pacific region into EduGain to be shared globally. And we need to adopt global policies and frameworks. And we have Pal here this week to assist in telling us all about the new frameworks, or even the older ones that have been around for a while, and how to get them deployed and implemented within your federation. And I'll be talking about that as well tomorrow. The IAM Taskforce is concluded, is concluding today, but I'd like to put a big call out to all the participating federations and their staff and leadership for attending over the past 10 years to get your NRENs to run up identity federations and to continue to grow your Eduroam services. The many presenters over the years, and we've had a truckload of presenters come from all sorts of areas to assist in training and development of this work. The APAN secretariats and the local organising committees for making these conferences happen, and the funders, the Asia Connect funding group, and who is then supported by the European Union to get people to these conferences. So, bit of a time to reflect, but there's not many people here to reflect. But is there anyone who's got any comments or want to sort of say anything about what's happened over the past 10 years as we've sort of moved forward with these projects and getting federations up and running? Is there anyone online who'd like to sort of say anything as well? This is your opportunity to have a say, to reflect on what we've been doing. Well, I'd just like to say I've been enjoying the working with you guys. It's been fun. And it's been great meeting all of these new people, this region, and visiting all these places that I probably wouldn't have had the opportunity to visit unless I'd been part of this activity, this work. And it's great to see that we've actually got some new federations in Edge again. Just like to see them grow. So that was our reflections. Yay. Where to from here? The APAN Identity and Access Management Group will hopefully continue. So what is the working group? Within APAN, a working group is defined. Working group are the foundations of APAN activities. A working group is a collection of individuals sharing a common interest. More details about the current working groups can be found on the working group page of the APAN site. So we're going to delve into that. The current APAN working group's current description is focusing about generating awareness and understanding of identity and access management, and is working to provide APAN members to develop and grow their identity and access management activities within their regions. So that's what the working group's task is about, what we're supposed to be doing. And I'd like to sort of open the floor, it's a very small floor, to redefine or define what areas we should be working on. My battery's running low, so I need some electricity into my machine. So are there any areas we should be focusing on or areas that are out of scope for the working group? We're just going to make it up as we go.
I'm concerned that efforts, I don't know if a lot of
Microphone coming.
I'm concerned that our efforts aren't making the impact that we wanted. And even if it was, it's not necessarily scalable. And so I'm not putting a slight on the work that you and Farhan and I tried to do, because I think that we went into it with the best intentions, but we're not making the progress that we had hoped. Both in deployment. I think we don't have a federation in Nepal, unfortunately, at the moment. There's lots of gaps, and we need some radical ideas on how to solve those, I think, right? That we just need to, the slow progression, the deployment model that worked in Australia because the deployment is very similar, to the European model. The reason it worked in the US, the reason it worked in Latin America, to an extent, it's because they had that structure in place. And I think that we're still not selling people on that collaboration, that our Asia Pac members aren't seeing the value. And so the top, I always say NRENs can only ever focus on whatever their top 3 priorities are, right? And so Federation is slipping to 4th and 5th place. And so they never, connectivity and security up there, but we're not, unfortunately. And I don't know now what our region needs, because those that have Federation are happy, but we've still got so many gaps to solve. And we're not getting enough feedback on why it's not working in those other territories. And we've tried to solve it with money. We've tried to solve it with infrastructure. We've tried to solve it with training, and it's not getting the traction that we want. And yeah, and we weren't wasting, Tane money thinking this wasn't going to work. We were spending it thinking it was going to work. So
Bro, maybe there's something that we haven't explored, solving the bureaucracy issue. Okay. Maybe to be honest, for example, like we try develop a tools or some other tutorial that can help the federation operator to set up the identity federation infrastructure. Like, for example, the tools that either I develop or sorry, we develop, or some other people from the IAM community have developed. So that can be accelerated. But the issue is in order for the interconnection to happen, the new federation operator need to become education member. That is I think a bit showstopper a bit, because for example, take an example of Indonesia. I think it's almost 1 year that and I don't know what is the current process at the moment. Is it just waiting for the voting, or is it the federation policy is being reviewed and so on? So even we have planned some activities between Indonesia and Malaysia, like student mobility, because we keep being asked by the university over here, hey, when they can use their own ID to log into our system. Yeah, I said wait a little bit more, just wait for their education membership to be accepted. Of course, we can always create like an ASEAN Federation or Apan Federation. We can do that, but we shouldn't do that, because it sort of become like a sidecar of quote unquote competitor of education. So we don't want. So I think the best is to make use of whatever establishment or whatever stuff that we have been working very hard to make it work. Okay, so maybe it's something that we need to try to improve in terms of the bureaucracy, in terms of the formality and so on. I know that identity federation is kind of sensitive, because it may involve some sensitive information exchange between one territory to another territory, but I don't think it has to be extremely so rigid, because at the end of the day, either the IDP and SP can still always restrict in terms of information exchange at their side. So that is my comment.
yeah, Farhan, I think that potentially, and a large portion of the trust within federations is actually technical trust, not the policy trust, right? We have certain baselines for the metadata aggregation and the way the certificates are generated, and basically how we introduce people into that framework. And we do that because we have a forum like TFIAM, or now IAM workgroup, that we know the people being introduced into the community. So the added burden of the policy, I think the policy problem for Indonesia just doesn't make sense, and is dragging on way too long, to a ridiculous proportion, because I haven't heard anything wrong with their policy. It's so similar to the policy template that it should be a trivial acceptance of them.
Yeah.
And the fact that this has taken more than a month, because it's taken well longer than a year, just doesn't make sense. And hopefully, when we get Depthy in the room and Pal, we can better understand what the the governance processes are that we're waiting so long on hopefully that's something that is such a trivial decision. Because if there's real problems, then we want to solve them. We certainly don't want to hear a year later that there's a showstopper problem with admitting Indonesia, because that's just too long, to receive they're not acceptable. So we don't think that's going to happen. Just we don't understand why, and that's one of the problems, that it's taken a lot of the wind out of the sails of the Indonesian effort, that maybe when they finally get accepted, they're just not interested anymore, right? It's now the fourth most important thing they can work on, and we lose them for a period of time until they're willing to come back.
Yeah, true. Well, take for example, like in Malaysia, for example, all the librarians are scrambling, looking for some alternative solution to easy proxy, because the price has been like 3 times or 4 times more expensive than before. So in this case, Sifulan become or Identity Federation become an ideal drop-in replacement to easy proxy, and the solution is ready. So means that they can continue their business without having to break their bank account in order to keep the business open. So even if we share with Indonesia, okay, this federation can do this, do that, but you have to wait until you become educate member to get the full Identity Federation experience. Of course, you can negotiate with the service provider to become direct federation member, but in my maybe on the earlier stage of the Identity Federation, the service provider interested to do that, like a direct peering or direct connecting with your federation. But at the moment, it become like less what I'm observed. So they prefer either just connect through the EduGain, especially many of them joining the UK Federation, and then they prefer that way and connect through the EduGain. Even in our case, we only have like 16 direct service provider, and the remaining are through the EduGain. So it's very crucial that to bring this new federation to get on board EduGain as soon as possible. I know that maybe there's some worry that whether they configure the system well, whether it will the interoperability works very well. Yep, there is that concern, but it will be better for them to learn throughout the way. Okay, even in our case, after we join EduGain, maybe it takes like almost 1 year to get ourselves really to be par or to be meet at least the baseline expectation as the federation operator, and to make sure that our member are configured the IDP or SP very well, so that it can works well with another IDP or SP at another federation operator. So basically, let them learn along the way, better than make sure you are 100% ready first, only then you join EduGain. No, because there's a chicken and egg for the federation operator to convince the university to join the federation. So maybe some of them prefer to like wait and see. Okay, wait until there is you join EduGain, or there's some more member to join, then we will join. Or there are some that we're willing to explore. So but not that many that willing to explore or willing to sacrifice themselves to be part of the federation, so that others can follow.
So, hello, Paul here. What made the European Federation work was not any game, I can say per se. It was national service one way or another. And then Edgain was the glue that made other stuff work. So what we have tried to do all the time is finding the national killer service. Get both identity providers in or home organizations in, but also get understanding for what federation is. That is the hardest part, to get all the home organizations to understand why and what. If we get that working, it's easier. And I hear the problem with Indonesia, and I've seen it with South America federations also, that it takes time to go through the hoops and loops of the Edgain Secretariat. I don't know why it takes so long time. Sometimes I think could be communication problems more than anything. But you really need to find the local services that can be used, that can be understood. For example, from Sweden, our first killer service was Adobe Connect service. That's the old version of Zoom. That was our first killer service that made every university and university college to get into the federation. We bought that as an NRM for the home organizations to use. That's the way we got it running.
Similar in Australia, we started with a number of universities who wanted to build a federation, so it was more a bottom-up approach. ARNet, NREN put up a file sender, file sharing service, which just last year was terminated. But it was a very popular service. It brought a lot of universities together, and it brought a lot of research institutions' awareness of the federation up. We have in the order of 600 services in our federation. We only export 5 of them to Edugain at the moment. I want to see more being exported. But to get to 600, it was a lot of effort on our part, a lot of work going around talking to the universities. I remember back in around 2006, we started our federation in Australia with a conference. We brought all the university technical folk together. We discussed what federation was. We also discussed what Eduroam was, and got pretty much consensus from the universities that this was probably a good thing. They didn't really understand it back then, but having that initial push from the universities to say, we would like one of these things, not really sure where it's going to take us, but when it does get going, if it's not going the right way, we'll turn it off. But they obviously haven't done that. They've kept us going. They keep funding us, and we keep growing our service. We now include ORCID as part of our service, ORCID consortium lead. So we're looking at persistent identifiers. So over time, we have worked with our community, understood what their requirements were, and responded appropriately to providing services that meet those requirements. Our current work is around providing the next level of identity federations, and that's around authorization and community building, virtual organizations using the, what's it called? Framework. Is it framework? The framework. The ARC blueprint. Yeah. So we've looked at the ARC blueprint. We've talked to a company called CR Login in the US who have an implementation of that. We're now starting to work to partner with them. They're deploying instances within Australia, and we're working with research communities, our biocommons communities, our historical and sister history groups, about developing that set of tools to allow them to decide who's in their community, to enable that to provide authorization to take it to the next level. It's taken us 13 years to get to this point, but that's just been listening to our community and also helping to guide our community as we work through that and guide our government to help us make this happen. We've recently brought in a new section, a research support section, which is now directly talking to research organizations, research communities about how we can help them grow and understanding what their requirements are. So it's not just set it up and forget type approach. You've got to do a lot of work. You've got to keep at it, going and going and going. And it's been very effective and profitable for us. We're now an organization of 27 people running the Identity Federation, which is, I think, one of the largest identity federations. We don't do NREN stuff. That's ARNet's problem. We've just really focused on doing federation stuff. So I think one of the things that may be missing is that next layer down, talking to the universities, understanding what they are, getting them to understand what federation is, and having them ask you and tell you as an NREN, we want and need a federation to share and collaborate.
So a question to everyone here and online. What type of services is the one that may drive your usage? Why do you do the federation? For us, it is students that drive our federation. Student services, national and international student services. Research and library things come secondary nowadays because the volume is in students. Researchers get it by the students need it, then the researchers get it. That's the way we are going nowadays, because students are the big crowds, researchers are the small crowd.
In Australia, we're the other way. We're really focusing on our researchers, providing them the best service possible, and the students benefit from that. And that's, I think, because the Australian government has funded a lot of research initiatives, research activity, and research services. And those services then need the authentication and authorization pieces wrapped around them. We have really ignored our librarians. They've worked it out themselves. They have other options that they can look at. And for our students, they just pick up the pieces and get the benefits from it. We also have a verification service for our students. So if students want a cheap pizza or access to some cheap music or whatever, they can use the federation. They don't know they're using the federation, but it's there as an option for them to verify that they are a student at a university and can pick up those cheap or discounted services. Brian, anything from you?
Yep. For Malaysia, what drives us is actually the university IT enterprise operational. So there are two sides. Number one, it helps them to implement a proper identity management system and also provide a web SSO to their intranet application, and also for library remote access. And there's something that's starting to get traction is towards the like e-learning and also cross-university interaction and also mobility. It's a positive trend actually, because now they're starting to understand what is the benefit of identity federation and also how it works and so on. So by looking at, I mean, after they all the benefit, then okay, now it's time for then they are starting opening their door, and now we are they start looking for us and would like to join our federation. And with the new improvement on our IDP as a service, we call it Sifulan Connect. So it make much more easier to integrate their existing IDMS if they already have, or if they don't, then the Sifulan Connect itself can be the IDMS solution for them. So yeah, that's what things that drive in Malaysia. So it's been a very exciting past 2 years in Malaysia, that we have very rapid development and also deployment of identity federation, including eduroam as well, because we try to make a very strong use case of identity federation, not only for research, not only for library remote access, but also eduroam. So the goal is to just use one interface or one IDMS solution to try to solve all the access problem to application.
From Nepal, what does Nepal want with the Identity Federation? You want to pass the microphone?
Regarding this identity federation, we don't have implemented EDU, and you know that. But the EDROM exactly is focusing on right now, and we are talking on the policy, I think. Because without getting the policy and from the government, we are not exactly going, and we discussing about, okay, parallelly we do the move to the EDU again and convince the government. We are discussing on that as well. But right now, we establish our EDU in airport as well. Right now, the people, it's getting quite popular right now. So before going to EDU again, EDUROM is quite popular. I think it will make some payment to the EDU again as well, I hope. And regarding the thing, why not we are very focused on the things, I think there is some lack in my thought, that is, I might be wrong. We, as I saw some apricots event as well. If we do like that of workshops and some, I think online or physical, I think that would be quite good for implementing the people. And if you see that one people come in one federation meet, and then other one come in the next, then that will not be very focused. If you train one person, my thought that is, then that would be very good. I think either, and we are not very professional on that as well. I think so. We did the things voluntarily. So we are some lack in deploying the things as other. Green, I think you said in Australia was quite focused on RNAs in the identity federation, right?
Yeah.
And we have done quite focused on this team, on the federation, and other things. I think that would be very much effective.
Yep. So you're looking for champions at your university to sort of step up and
yes,
and help the NREN drive it forward. Or...
Yes, we are discussing. One of the problems is that first university should ask, that is our need, right?
Yep.
This is our need. This is the happening in this country and the other countries. But yes, quite some professors as they are interesting and enthusiastic. Okay, I got this access there, and it's a very I think it's a tortoise walk like steps. But they understand what is EDROM, and I think this makes the payment. I already told you that. And some universities, yes, we are just doing some MOUs to the new university as well. And even our circuit and the connectivity are not there, but we are trying the outreach of the to the out of our capital.
Yep.
So think so will develop in the next coming days. I'm interested.
So we didn't get introduced to the guy at the back.
Okay, I forgot to introduce. I am myself. I am Neeraj Acharya, and I'm working as a network engineer in the Nepal Research and Education Network.
And you want to pass it back?
I'm Vikas Sibratu from Pakistan.
All right.
Yes, inshallah. And inshallah, next Apan in Pakistan Apan 58, 26 to 30 August.
Yep.
So we are all invited you. Please must join. We will wait for all of you. Thank you.
So you know what's happening with Identity Federation and Eduroam in Pakistan?
Yes, basically Mr. Vikas Ahmed Khan is looking into these events. He's not available in this meeting. I think some issues like in Pakistan, Mr. Muhammad Faiz already informed that there is a lack of information, and in universities just far away in other provinces, they don't know about the objective and benefits of radio room and radio gain as well. Because there are some concerns like technical people who can engage the seniors and authorities about the technology, why they can, because universities have business groups, faculty like and belong to legislative studies. They are not interested in like adoption of technology.
Right.
They just know simple use of internet and searching, blah blah blah. So we are focusing on to motivate them to engage in these activities. Around 200 above universities are on EDO. They are using this facility.
Yep.
But we are working on EDO gain as well. And the main issues, I think, is technology awareness. I think. Thank you.
So we can now get the Eduroam at Nepal International Airport, TIA, that is, and it's running on 42 organizations up to Eduroam. Some were fully deployed and some were partially. And DJNRO, that is up and running. And then we like to thank all the people working here as Biduran, Learn, Giant, AF, Arnet, what is our, and then still struggling around centralized logging on the radius and its actual status.
Yep. So you're getting there, slowly getting there.
Hello, I'm Pensi Arunrathamongkol from Thailand. Okay, for the federation in Thailand, I think in terms of Thailand structure, we the member of Thailand is loosely connect. So the stronger structure is with Uninet, which is the university network. And during our implementation of the EduGain, I think the university itself, they have their system, their digital ID, things like that, and they don't understand much what will be the service provider that is can share or we can use. But in terms of the Eduroam, they are quite doing well. The person from the university that is operating Eduroam now, I think they don't, the group don't want to, get involved with the EduGain. So I think the policy issue is the main obstacle for us. Yeah.
Getting universities to sign off on
Right.
the membership policies.
Yeah. Yes.
I think that may be a result of a lack of understanding of, from their part, of what EduGain is all about and what Federation is all about.
Yes, thank you.
So that may be something we need to tackle, is getting information to the university levels to understand better what Federation is, the benefits of Federation, and to get them to join. It took us over 3 years to get all of our universities in Australia to do that. We had some enthusiastic ones who were willing to pay us to get it going from the start. We had the ones who were watching them. Once they were on board, they would jump on board. And then we had the laggers, and they had to wait until everybody else was on board, and they were the last to join.
That means that they want to cooperate with each other. You
Yeah.
need to create that first.
So it's a cooperation and the understanding, getting people to work together. That's right, pal, because I remember back before 2000, universities in Australia were very competitive. Everybody wanted the student. They didn't want to share the students around. They didn't want to share their researchers around. Everything was very, keep it inside your university. Now in Australia, it's much more sharing. They collaborate much better, and they share funding as well. So there's funding projects that go across multiple universities. When you're in that point, you really need a federation to be able to have researchers access services provided by one university, but supporting a research activity run by multiple universities. And that's where we're going for at the moment, to sort of get those research activities that are multi-university in the federation, so that there's easier access, easier sharing, better collaboration in those services. But it's really the universities that really want it, so you've got to really sell it to them. What they don't know, they don't know until they do know. Once they do know, then they'll start asking for it. So anything from Japan? Comment?
Japan.
Any comments about federation, or just no?
I'm not so familiar with the Samuel Federation, but the very important thing is that value proposition and education. So I think many people are very much interested in technology side, but technical side. But we have learned that many universities have some difficulties because they do not have technicians. So they want to use the service. They want to use services, including many services that require some of the federation or the EduRoam, but they don't know how to start. And one of our ideas is to develop a managed system. So identity is very important. So we probably need to have a managed IDP service, but the development is still underway, and I don't know how many years it would take. So in the EduRoam in Japan, we have now 414 institutions already joined, but we still have the double. In total, we have more than 1,000 higher education institutions, and then we'll probably need to deploy EduRoam in a K-12. So we have 35,000 schools in Japan, and of course they do not have technicians. So we are encouraging commercial operators to develop managed services. So the service is very important. So I think the value proposition of services is very important for as a starting point. Yeah, thanks.
We've been running a managed service for our IDPs in Australia for 6 years now. It took at least 2 years to develop it, and it's still being developed. we have about 75% of our organisations that migrated to it. And I know Farewel has also got a managed service, which has been very popular.
95% for us.
Yeah.
Only
And
one that's in they own on-prem Simulate IDP, but the rest has moved to Sifulan Connect.
I think that many people know vaguely that the identity is very important, but they are not fully convinced. So we need education. We need to educate them to introduce a nice identity provider, and also the identity providers need to be interconnected. So that kind of education is required.
Yeah, and a lot of universities are losing their technical staff because they're outsourcing everything to the cloud as much as possible in Australia, and are losing their technical skills. So they're really focusing what they have left on the commercial stuff, the Azures, and the Ping Federates and the Oktas, and driving those things where they can get that ongoing support from the vendors. Running shibboleths at an institution is really dying away in Australia. A lot of them are actually outsourcing the management and operation to us, the federation operator. And similarly, what's happened, as Brian said, 95% of his members are using his outsourced service or cloud service. Well, that's a good conversation. I'll finish it off.
Yeah, we see the same thing in Europe. More and more federations are running proxy-based IDPs for home organizations, or proxy-based because they are connecting it to Entra and Google and stuff like that, instead of running their systems local at home. We also see that there are IDP of last resorts with building in countries, a lot of them. And what we also see is that there is a proxy top of that makes home organization IDPs. So identity is not something home organizations want to do anymore. And I understand why. It's hard, it's expensive.
Okay, we've got 10 minutes left, so let's move on. So we've got some housekeeping to do, if you like. Supposedly this activity was to call for people to stand up and be the working group chairs and co-chairs of the working group. So we have chair's role is to chair these meetings, to help organise them, to participate in the APAN Working Group Chairs Area Directors Meeting, and to plan the APAN meeting schedule with input from the community. So I've been doing that for way too long, but I'm happy to continue doing it. We have participants, and our participants are really there to actively participate and contribute to the working group meetings. So that's what you guys are doing, which is great. We're also looking for any funding opportunities. The task force and the working group is much more effective if funding can be found for participants to attend. But I'm also looking for possibility of having things between APAN meetings, a bi-monthly, every second month virtual meeting, possibly, to grow the community, to understand better what the community wants, and to be able to better plan these events and have it really useful event to bring everyone together to work collaboratively face to face. I find working face to face is much better than online, but we can use online just to fill the gaps, to help fill the gaps. Training and collaborative activities. What activities do we want from the APAN working group? So what things do we want to happen at these face-to-face meetings? And what do we want, if anything, to happen between meetings? And I'd like to see more of the between meeting stuff. We haven't really done the between meeting stuff very well. I'd like to see more of that happening just to really grow that community. And there's probably two groups. There's the APAN, the EduGain group and an EduRoam groups we could sort of set up and have more activity, more interest in getting things happening. And finally, we're meant to vote on who's going to be the new working group chair. I'm not sure how this is going to work, but I'd like to call if anyone wants to take the role. I'm happy to continue on as the working group chair, but I'd like to have some assistance. I'm not sure this group's big enough to sort of really call for that assistance, but I might put it out to the community through the email groups and the Slack channels that we're looking for a group of 3 or 4 people to sort of work as the leadership for this working group and to start organizing those meetings between events and to work with myself to plan out what's actually going to be done and presented at these meetings. But to date, mainly I've just been making it up as I go. So I'd like a bit more assistance to make it up as we go and to get more feedback from the community to make it more beneficial that would attract more folk to these meetings. So if everyone's happy with myself continuing on as working group chair, say aye. Anyone, any dissenters? Say nay. So I'll let the APAN Secretariat know that I'm going to continue on as the chair and we'll call for participation as working group co-chairs over the next few weeks to see if we can get some some more activity between these working group meetings. So that's all I have for this particular session. We're going to end up 5 minutes early. You get 5 minutes more for your morning tea. Yep. So, and we'll be back here at 11 o'clock, and Brooke and others will be joining us to talk about EduRoam in more detail at 11 through till the end of the day. So it might be a short day, which means you can go and check out what's happening in other working group meetings, because that's something that we also miss out on, is understanding and seeing what's happening in other communities within APAN. So there's an opportunity possibly this afternoon to go and sit in on some other APAN working group meetings to see how they run, see how they operate, to see what they're talking about. And they may have some needs for identity management that they are also unaware of. But we'll see how we go. I don't think Brooke will be able to take us to 3 sessions of EduRoam today somehow.
Well, I think with the but we'll have updates.
Yeah, we will have updates from Fahan, hopefully Hideaki or Naoto.